everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Courtney, and I'm so glad that you have joined us for this mini episode. This episode is really kind of a how to step by step take back control of your health, how to take radical responsibility for your health. And, this is something that I started to learn early on after having kids. And it wasn't something that I just kind of woke up and thought about. It was really something that kind of revealed itself over time as I started caring for these new babies. And I'm thinking, I don't know that I have all the answers. I don't know that I know what to do. And I didn't feel very confident in my choices of how to feed the kids and what to do when they were sick. And I realized that after going to their pediatrician multiple times and recurring ear infections, and kind of just seemed like we were on this hamster wheel of colds, and one kid would get sick and then they would give it to the other child, and around we would go, and everybody was staying sick. And it was just something I felt like, man, I feel like I could be doing more. What is missing here? And that's really when the questions started to surface in my mind about, there may be some things that I have more control over than I'm really taking responsibility for. And so it was at that point where I really started to do a little bit of legwork. And, I hope if you're listening to this, this is definitely not a conversation around shaming you or making you feel guilty or bad about any decisions you've made in the past. I think that when we want to take control of our health, we want to have a different outcome, we have to look back at where we've been. And so I think that's step one in taking back the reins on your own health, is really looking at how we got here. And I think it's an important thing to do because sometimes the things that we are doing, the behaviors, the choices, sometimes they're just familiar or we're unknowingly choosing them. And so when I say that, it's more like, you're getting up every day, and instead of maybe having a moment to just allow your body to slowly wake up, you're just jumping on your phone and scrolling. And that's just what you've been doing. And you just haven't really thought about it. You flip on all the lights, get on your phone. So your body's immediately kind of jolted into this sympathetic state. And now you've got blue light in your eyes. And so there's really no good transition. And it's also just feeding your mind all of these things, what everyone else is doing, and maybe some terrible news stories. And, there's a lot of influence there on your mental health. And so sometimes we fall into habits, and it's not like we chose the habit thinking, well, this is going to be a terrible idea, I think I'm going to do it. Nobody ever really does that. It's just sometimes we just do things. And then before we know it, we've done them a couple dozen times. And now it's just baked into our routine and we don't even think about it. And so I think that looking back and really figuring out, okay, how did we get here? Because here's the thing, when we talk about health, and I know I'm giving like little examples here and there, but nothing ever happens suddenly. So you can apply that to any part of your life. You don't go bankrupt overnight. You don't lose a relationship overnight. You don't lose your health and manifest a disease overnight. All of these things are a cumulative effect of the choices that you make day after day after day. And so what happens is this byproduct, the expression of your health, is this overall sum of choices that you've made for a long period of time. And so if we can't go back and really evaluate what those choices are, we're never going to have a different result in the future. So I want to kind of give you a few things to think about, because it's really important, if we're going to make changes, that we have some strategy behind it. So let's do a little exercise together. I want you, maybe just close your eyes, give yourself a minute. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. If you're busy doing something, just give yourself a moment to think about this. If you could completely transform your health, if you could resolve symptoms or things that you're feeling that are undesirable, whatever it is that's been that barrier for you, if you could resolve those things, how would you feel? How would that impact your day-to-day life? What would that look like? And really just picture that for a moment. Imagine what your life is right now, living with all those symptoms. And now picture, if they didn't exist, how your life would start to look different. And now I want you to think about the things that stand in the gap, like what it is that's holding you back, what it is that you feel like, man, I don't have the tools in my toolbox to fix that problem. Because a lot of times, whatever those things are, is the reason why you can't heal, right? That would make the most sense. But whatever that thing is, that's the antidote for you being able to take responsibility for your own health and move forward and step into something that's so much greater, that's going to allow you to serve a purpose in your life that's going to fill you with so much joy. Now, there's always going to be excuses for our health, right? There's always going to be the things that come up in our life that we just think, well, that is an immovable barrier in my life. I can't get any sleep because my kids wake me up all night long. So if I can't get any sleep, then my blood sugar is going to be dysregulated. I'm never going to be able to have good metabolic health. I get it. I know those downstream effects. I've lived them too. And sometimes you just can't do anything about it. But what I would advise you to do is to start reframing those things. Because the first thing that you're going to be tempted to do is to look at some of these barriers as immovable obstacles. As, well, you know what, my mom had breast cancer, or my spouse isn't supportive and I have to make extra meals for everybody because, nobody's on the same page. But start reframing them, because the more you see them as a problem, they are always going to be there, and they'll be big, staring at you right in the face saying you're never going to get to the other side. So you've got to maybe reframe it. Hey, maybe you are in the stage where your kids are getting up at night. It's not going to be forever. They're not going to be 16 years old getting up 14 times in the middle of the night. It won't be that way. I know it seems like it. And people used to tell me that, and I used to just get so mad because I thought, coming from someone that's not sleep deprived, and I was there too. But the way that I reframed it in my mind was that I started thinking, okay, I'm going to be woken up this many times in the night. That means I'm going to need a couple different breaks during the day to close my eyes. I'm going to need 20 minutes 2 to 3 times a day. And I'm going to make sure that I have somebody in the house that can watch the kids, or when the child naps, I'm going to lay on the floor on my back with the feet up on the wall. And I'm just going to allow my body to just decompress and rest. I might not get a full-blown nap, but it's going to allow my body to just recalibrate itself so that I'm not overly hungry and overly stimulated and just kind of in this constant overdrive that makes me hungry and irritable all the time. So think about those things as, hey, they are in my life right now, but there is a solution to it. And this is going to be the temporary solution. And then when my child's sleeping through the night, now I get to reframe the formula again. So just start to think about them in a different light. And I know it can be hard, especially if it's not something you're enjoying all the time. But I would challenge you to say, if it's your health and it's something that you really do desire for yourself, you do have to get excited about it, even if it doesn't feel like it at first. Just think in your mind about the end result. Think of that picture of health, of you experiencing it. Waking up without headaches, waking up without feeling like, oh, I don't even want to get dressed because I hate the way that my clothes fit. Think about the person that you would be on the other side and start acting like that person today. Now, on a more practical side, something that I feel like is an absolute must for a lot of people, especially if you've got a ton of plates spinning in your life, is to get some accountability and some support. And I think health coaches are awesome because they're kind of like mentoring you through this whole process and also holding you accountable. So when you do get really tired of the constant thinking and processing and making decisions, and you'll hit that fatigue, you're going to need somebody that can say, okay, let's trim this out. Let's layer this in. Let's figure out what's going to work for you just this week, just to get through the next couple days. I even have somebody that it helps me out. And we even had a conversation about this not long ago. And he was like, I think you need to outsource some of your meals for a little bit. And I thought that's probably a good idea. He's like, you've got to take something off your plate. Like, something has to give. And I know you want to hit all your nutrition goals. And I know you want to hit your macros, and you've got to be able to feel fueled and nourished. But he was like, you don't have the capacity to go spend time grocery shopping, prepping meals, and sitting down and enjoying it. So pick one meal of the day, maybe it's dinner, and just have that meal sent to you. And here's a couple of meal deliveries, companies that kind of hit all the criteria of quality, and just do it for the next 2 weeks and then see how you are. And I thought that was great. And like, that's not something that I couldn't have thought on my own, but I'm so deep in the weeds of my own life, I can't even come up for air to think about anything else. But having that person in my corner that can just say, hey, I see what's going on. Let me provide some solutions, and then I'll check back in with you, and we'll see how that looks in a week or two. So maybe find that person. There are so many health coaches at the Health Institute. We actually train a lot of health coaches. So you could DM us if you need some support in that area and you don't know where to turn. We have coaches all the time that are graduating from our program, and this is exactly what they do. But this would be a great opportunity to really find somebody that can get alongside of you on the same side with your goals. Like they're advocating for you and they know where you're trying to go, and they're going to help put those pieces in place and provide the support so you have somebody that's in your corner. Now, the next part of this is really acknowledging that nobody is going to care more about your own health than you, and nobody knows your own body better than you. So we talk all the time on the podcast about the conventional health model, and I would venture to say that anybody listening to this probably agrees at this point that the Western institution of medicine is really not meeting the needs of healing people, right? It's not preventative medicine, it's sick care. So it's putting a Band-Aid on some symptoms just to keep you feeling good long enough until the next symptom pops up. And now you got to go back because the one drug you're taking has side effects that are now making you more miserable in a different way. And then the cycle just goes on and on and on. So preventative care, wellness, actually achieving longevity, these things take work, and you've got to partner with the right people, and you've got to be able to enjoy it, and you've got to be able to just look at the big picture of life and say, you know what, it may come at the expense of some vacations. It may come at the expense of the type of house we live in, or where our kids go to school, or what type of shoes I'm wearing or car I'm driving. But you've got to decide that now. The last thing you want to do is wait until your health is screaming at you, your symptoms are screaming at you, and you're so miserable, and you think, well, great, I'm so committed and spread thin financially, I can't afford a chiropractor, an acupuncture, or massage, or, anything. If you needed to go and have ozone treatment or any of these, hyperbaric oxygen, there's so many different things. There's so many resources that are out there. But here's the thing, and this stinks, but this is just what it is. Our system is not built around the health insurance and being able to financially compensate. Like, you're going to have to come out of pocket for most of this stuff. You just are. And the budget that we as a family have to allocate it's quite significant, but we don't take a ton of vacations. Like, we really don't. We know that it is a significant amount of an investment for us to buy the food that we want to buy, because we have to go above and beyond to try and find clean sources of produce and animal products and things like that. But it is a priority. So we've all had to get on the same page for that. And then also know that, hey, our chiropractors, like, those are people we partner with. Our kids are in there every single week getting evaluated. If our kids are sick, we go in. If there are additional things that I want to have done, I've got practitioners and functional med doctors that I can always contact and say, hey, I think we need to do a little workup. I've even had our middle child, Sadie, evaluated. And it was a doctor that was in another country, and we did some virtuals, and it was actually a referral by Dr. Motley. And so I knew, hey, I'm going to ask him because these things are showing up. She had warts on her hand. She was emotional, just having a lot of just kind of symptoms of her body just feeling like it's very inflamed, and just some things that weren't resolving with my own support, just with the kind of the tools that I had in the home. And I thought, I've got to be able to partner with somebody. But we had margin kind of baked into our life for those things. So we don't see a pediatrician. Now, that's my own, our family's personal decision, and I'm not knocking the medical system. I mean, I've been in the hospital multiple times just in the last year from car accidents, and having one child with a respiratory issue where we needed some albuterol last minute because she was really having some labored breathing. So those things they're great to have in the case of emergency. But from a preventative state, you've got to be able to be upfront about it and kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and just say, you don't need to have all the money in the world. But I see people all the time, and they're buying these supplements, and they're, picking up a red light device, or, whatever it might be. And yes, they may all be great, but it's hard to know, is this really what's going to move the needle for me? And until you really can start to evaluate where you want to go with your health and what your body's up against, that's where you can be really intentional with where you spend your money. I hate seeing and hearing from families that they just feel so frustrated because they've spent so much money and they're still sick. They're willing to put in the investment, but they're like, I feel like I'm getting conflicting information. I feel like I've tried this and it's not working. That's where it can just be really great to have a network of people. And here's the thing, like, this podcast serves to help you. All of the people that we interview, so many of them have their own network of people. Like we interview practitioners all the time that have health coaches, that have businesses. Use them. This is hopefully educating you to some level where it's giving you access to the right people. And it may take several times of interviewing or getting on a call with someone, but spend that time and find out who your people are. Because if you have a child with a specific condition, you need to find the person that really aligns with you and what you want for your family. And those are the people you want to partner with. And I have grown to love this space because of the relationships I've been able to make. And not everybody is the perfect fit for you, but that's where you've got to just spend a little bit of time kind of knowing who it is that you can partner with and who can help serve your family's needs. So here is a little recap and some extra little strategy tips for you. I would say first and foremost, sit down, take some time. And maybe you need to do this with your spouse. Maybe you need to do this with a family member. Sometimes you're kind of blind to some of your own tendencies. You're even blind sometimes to some of your physical stuff. Like I remember having a conversation with my mom and she said, hey, do you remember after you had Sadie and you had postpartum and it was really bad? And I thought, no, I don't remember having postpartum. And she told me, she was like, oh man, Courtney, we remember we used to come over all the time. And I was like, yeah. She was like, we were checking on you because we were really worried about your mental health. She was like, you were in a very dark place. Like, after Ella it was okay. After Sadie, like apparently, there were a lot of challenges for me and I was not really that well. But here's the thing, when I was in it, I didn't even realize it. So how many of us are walking around and we feel like we're under this cloud, right? And we don't even know because that's what's become familiar. And so sometimes having somebody else point those things out can say, hey, yeah, you used to do this really well, but now I feel like it's different in this way. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just that you got to know that, hey, I did experience health to this level at one point, but now maybe I'm not. And that's not normal. That's not okay. We're getting older and so things change, but it shouldn't be that the wheels just fall off and now we're miserable. So, or maybe you've been on a lot of medications and you've got a lot of Band-Aids. You don't really have a good sense of what your baseline is. So write those things down. Hey, I started taking this supplement. I started, when I started this medication, I noticed my hair started thinning. Start kind of putting the pieces together. You can even look back to houses you've lived in. We moved into a house and my health, like not overnight, but I started to notice that I started getting some like skin issues. And I thought, this is really weird. I've never had skin problems before. And I started looking into some of the environmental stuff because I thought, I never had this stuff until I got into the house. And then I thought, okay, what else? And I had sore joints. And I thought, this is really weird. Like I do so much collagen. I don't do any inflammatory foods as much as I can control. Right. But it was that house. So there were, we did some testing, found some stuff, that was just, spores of mold and things like that. And so we ended up having to do some work and remediation and things like that. But it wasn't until I really started to put the timeline together where I figured out that the house was causing the problem. Otherwise I would just think, well, that stinks. Maybe I've got joint pain. Maybe I need to do some chondroitin and glucosamine or something like that, but it's not that. It was that there was something I was exposed to that was keeping me inflamed and driving this inflammatory response. So when you kind of look back on the timeline, you're going to start to be able to pick up some pieces there that just think, whoa, okay, that could be a huge influence on my health. And I had no idea. So ask people around you, take inventory of what it is that you're doing right now. Is it actually working? If you're taking 15 supplements every day and you still feel like crap, I would just stop the supplements, like stop the auto ship, give yourself a break, and see how you feel. Honestly, I did that the other day. I have so many supplements. Like it's insane. It's like a joke with all my friends because they just know that like I'm willing to try anything if it's like going to give me an edge and I'm going to feel better. And I'm always looking for ways to optimize. And so, I won't just take anything. Like the standard's set pretty high, and I do some investigation and things like that because I am very, very, very picky on supplements. But at the end of the day, like I have to be able to say, is this really serving me? Like, is this really bettering my health? And is my body receiving this in a good way? Because sometimes we just get in the habit. So evaluate your habits, evaluate the things you're doing, the foods you're eating, and then also look at your family. Like start with yourself first, right? They always say on the airplane, like, if we lose oxygen or whatever the pressure is, air cabin pressure, like put your own mask on first before you start helping everybody else. I would advise you, especially if you're a woman, like you're likely going to want to, already doing this for everybody else and your own health is tabled. Prioritize your health. If you are better, everybody else will be better because of it. So that is your permission right now to just sit down and take some time. Maybe that is your only goal for this next season and this next quarter is to say, you know what? Mom is prioritizing her health. I'm going to go see who I need to see. I'm going to start interviewing some functional med docs or some naturopaths or, work with somebody in the natural health space, a health coach or something like that. They can help me kind of evaluate what's going on. Maybe I'll actually run some labs this time and do a full comprehensive panel, and I'll do a hormone test. Like all these things have been putting off. Do all of it now and really see it to the finish line. Like don't just do the testing and be like, okay, well now I got to put that down and go, deal with the kids. Take it to the finish line, hold yourself to a different standard. Know that you are the one person that will care the most and have the biggest influence on your own health outcome. And we actually just did a podcast this morning with Dr. V, and he said the biggest contributor to the expression of your health is how you live your life. And I thought, that's so simple, and yet it's so profound. It's how you live your life. What you are drinking every day, what you are thinking when you wake up first thing in the morning, the people you surround yourself with every day, the job that you're working. Like this goes far beyond taking control of your health, goes beyond just the food that you're putting in your mouth every day. That's a small piece of it, but it is the entire picture of your life that counts. Are you doing it right? Do you feel joy? If you don't have anything, if you don't have an outlet that excites you every day, then you're missing a big piece of life and you only get one chance to do it. And he even made a comment and I thought, gosh, I need to go do this. And he was like, just go for a walk one day, like go out in the woods, go anywhere, go on, a trail or something. He was like, the only thing I want you to think about is what gets you excited and what brings you joy. And maybe it was years ago was the last time that you felt that excitement. But now's the time to say, you know what? I deserve that. I am worthy to experience that again. And if you really want that fullest expression of your health, you've got to be connected to the identity of who you are and the purpose you were designed to carry. Like that one thing about you that's so unique and special, it counts. It matters to other people. It matters to the world around you. So I want you to find what that is, and I want you to be able to run with it. It's going to bless everybody around you. But it's ultimately going to give you the life that you deserve to live because you'll live with meaning and purpose. And that purpose being fulfilled will energize you. We talk about energetics all the time too. And I love that this mindset component, right? You can literally drive energy into your cells and body by thinking about the greater good that you're doing. Like I'm a part of something better. When you feel worthy and you feel that value, it translates to your physical body. Your physical body will show up for you. But if you think your body is just, it's just okay. It's the shell I live in. It's falling apart most days. It creaks. It hurts. It gives me indigestion. Nobody appreciates it. I don't like the way that it looks. I'm telling you, it will feed right into the symptoms that you're experiencing. Sometimes you may need to ask somebody, hey, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think that, what's special about me? If you can't think about it for yourself, go find your parent, your spouse, your friend, like the people that are closest to you that love you, because they'll call it out in you. Even if you don't see it right now in this version of you, they see it. because they love you. And you are worthy. You do have value on your life. Like, it's no coincidence that you're here at this point in time. You have significance and you have purpose for right now. And I want you to be able to take ownership of it. And I want you to be able to go do great things in the world, because you know what? The world needs you. It needs you, and it needs the you that's right now. We should always be aiming to grow and become the best version of ourselves, but know that you are enough right now. You don't need to wait 3 years before you can start serving your purpose. You serve it right now. But the more that you can harness that value and really embrace it today, that beauty and power just starts to come forth in a new way. So guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this little, friend to friend talk. I've really enjoyed it. I love you guys as an audience so, so much. And so does Dr. Motley, Dr. Axe, our whole team. But I really want for you to be able to just step into a different level of not only your physical health, your spiritual health, your mental health, just the full picture. Because otherwise, these conversations and this time, to me, it's not serving what it's intended to do. And I show up here because I believe that there's a word for you. And I believe that you're listening to this right now because you are meant to receive it. So I hope that this has blessed you. Wherever you are in your week, I just pray that you have an incredible day, that you have a blessed week, and this next season that you go into, that there will be incredible favor and fruit that comes forward from your life. We'll see you guys on the next episode.